Great, everyone. I am seeing noon, so I am going to get us started. Thanks so much for taking some time for yourself today. At this lunch hour, feel free to eat your lunch. If you would like to show us your face, we'd love to see it. If not, that's okay too. Just encourage you to participate in whatever is comfortable for you. So if you want to engage in the chat, take yourself off mute and share something, we're definitely a small enough group that we can for sure do that. So I think all of you probably know me as you got my invitation, but I am Linda Golick. I'm the health and wellbeing consultant at Amplify Health. I'm in the Bellin region, and we do these webinars every other month. We do them in alignment with the Lifesaver Wellbeing campaign. So the idea behind the webinar is to really dig deeper into the material, make it come to life a little bit more, and then of course engage you and see what your perspective is on these topics, because that's a really important part of the series as well. So again, thanks for being here. We are recording this today, so this will go out in a future newsletter. If you want to watch it again, if you want to share it with a coworker, with a family member, feel free to do so. So let me start out. We're going to watch a little video today, and I am a big fan of Simon Sinek and his work. He has books, he has podcasts, he has multiple videos out there, and I really enjoyed this one because it really got me thinking about this whole idea of work-life balance in a very different way. So.
Work-life balance, because balance is achieved with two opposing forces. And why should work and life be? And I don't think if you don't have work-life balance, if you're struggling to find work-life balance, no amount of yoga will. Taking off an extra week of vacation, and by the way, vacation working on the beach, that's just telling. But I believe in that you're able to build a life where and personal life become not only say interchange but smooth, and what not necessarily confined by hours in a day, but rather with effort. So for example, if it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, part of the work day, and you're hankering for a run because it's a day like, you go for a run, like. And one of the mistakes that I've made was treating things that are important to my mind, my body, spirit, as something that only supposed to do off hours or on weekends. But just like I can't decide when I have an idea, sometimes it's on Saturday and sometimes it's in the evening, I also can't decide when I need a break. Sometimes it's something I feel, not some more. And so we've gotten really good, perfect. Sometimes responsibility takes precedence. We've gotten really good in our little company that somebody wants to take an afternoon to be with their kid, their calendar, with my kids. A long time ago, when I had a different business before all of this stuff, we used to have things called duvet days, which I can't remember. We had like 5 duvet days a year or something. And a duvet day was morning. You just don't want to come to work. You're told. Or it's a beautiful day and I just would rather. So you'd call up and leave a message at 8 o'clock in the morning or 7 o'clock in the morning, be like, hey, I'm taking a duvet day, I'll see you tomorrow. And no one would bother you, right? And that's amazing that you do that, Simon. I'm like, people are doing that anyway. It's called, hey, I think I have a 24-hour, I'm not going to be at work today, and they go to the beach. So just call it out. Schedule time at the gym in the middle of the day if that's when you like working out. And I just found the more seamless that we can make work and life, the more we start to enjoy them, because they're not opposing.
I love the video because, first of all, he talks about balance gives us this idea that there's an opposition, right? It's one against the other. So I think that's our first opportunity to open our mind a little bit more and think about this life work thing in a little bit different way. The other thing I loved was that he came up with this great idea of letting people have the opportunity to just take a day if they felt like they needed it. And a day without judgment, right? So if you felt like taking your kids to the beach, or maybe you just needed some quiet time, you were able to do that. And as he pointed out, when somebody criticized him for it, people are going to do it anyway. Right? So people feel like they really need a day off, they may call in sick or they may do different things. But I think that this video sets the stage for this idea of we don't have to choose one over the other. We can try to bring things together. And there's different ways of doing that. And there's no right or wrong answer. That's really up to all of us on how we'd like to make that happen. All right, so let's look at this again, just expand on that idea. Why do we say life work integration instead of work-life balance? Because I think the old term is definitely work-life balance. And that always did kind of not sit well with me. So I'm glad that we are moving in the direction more of the integration. And think about that. When we integrate things, there's a fluidity, there's an alignment, there's a flow versus the balance, again, kind of those two opposing things that are competing with each other and are separated from each other. And we just know in today's world that just is not possible, right? If COVID taught us anything, it taught us that we were bringing work to life and we were taking life into our work. And there's really, as human beings, it's really tough to separate those things. And it doesn't mean that we're not productive or we're not good in either areas of our life when we find ways for those to flow together. So why does it matter now? Why did we pick this as one of our big topics here for the Lifesaver Wellbeing Program? Well, a number of great reasons. Number one, we do have this modern workforce expectation going on. People are working remotely and more hybrid, and I think there is a greater awareness of flexibility. The idea of I'm going to leave to go pick up my kids, or I'm going to be off for a little bit because I have a dentist appointment, all these types of things. I think there is a greater awareness of that flexibility. And if there isn't in your workplaces, or if you're hearing about places that don't have that, we're also hoping to bring awareness of the human benefit that comes from letting human beings work and live in this way. We know that there's burnout trends and they continue to be in front of us. They're very apparent. And we know that when people are burnt out, it affects both their productivity and their health. So from a business standpoint, it's not good when you have burnt out people working for you because they are not bringing their best to their positions and to the organization. And then, of course, from a healthcare perspective, we know that people are going to need more healthcare if they are burnt out because it leads them down some of those avenues of illnesses and diseases and things like that. So it ends up costing both the individuals and the organizations that may be providing their healthcare coverage. So it's another reason we want to talk about this. And then, of course, just that link to employee well-being, engagement, and retention. So healthy employees are happy employees and vice versa. So a happy employee is a healthier employee. And so we want to make that link of when we allow people to function in their best ways, we get the best out of them, and that benefits them personally and professionally. And then, of course, from a retention standpoint, happy employees stay in their jobs. If they are in a situation where things are really great, they aren't going to want to leave. And again, they're going to bring their best to the organization. So we're going to talk about 4 core principles of what life work integration can look like. And I just encourage you, as always, reflect on yourself, reflect on what this looks like for you, but also through the lens of empathy. Think about what it looks like for your coworkers, for your family members, all the other human beings around you. Because again, we all kind of do this a little bit different. So let's start with flexibility. So here's a big concept: managing our energy, not just our hours. Okay, so a million years ago. It feels like it was very hour focused. Like I have to get in these many hours and I have to show that I've worked this many hours. What if we removed that? What if we removed that and went with energy? And I'm going to show you a video towards the end of our presentation that's going to illustrate this really well. But so thinking about where is my energy being spent, thinking about our energy is not an endless supply. It's kind of like a bank account in that we have to put stuff in to be able to take stuff out. It's not endless. It's not a money tree, right? So thinking about where is our energy going? How are we spending it? How do we want to spend it? And then evaluating where are there areas of improvement? So are there things that are taking up my energy that I really wish wouldn't? And is there anything I can do about that? And that can be something as small as like a little change to something bigger, but kind of thinking about this idea of managing energy. How about boundaries? Oh, it's just become one of my favorite words. When I do my mental health moment podcasts, the mental health therapist and I talk a lot about boundaries because we as human beings are not limitless and we have to kind of decide what works for us. So when we talk about boundaries and life work integration, a couple of things to consider. Healthy limits to prevent that always on culture. So we are at the mercy of these devices that we have, right? And so anybody can reach us any time of day, any day of the week. And what that can cause is a really unhealthy integration of work seeping more and more into your life. And if that isn't a good thing for you, that can be a problem. That always on culture tends to take people down this path. So what are your boundaries? What boundaries have you kind of considered for yourself? What are you putting in place? Quite frankly, a boundary for me is that most times my cell phone is in the kitchen at night. It is not in my bedroom because if somebody sends a Snapchat at 10:30 at night, it's going to wake me up. And that's not worth me losing sleep. That's a boundary for me. That's important. And there's all sorts of settings on your phone if you wanted to do that. But I just really like the separation of having it in another room. That's just something that I've done for myself. So what does that look like for you? How do you set work boundaries? How do you set home boundaries? Does anyone want to share? I'd love to hear from you all on what that looks like. So feel free to chat that in or take yourself off of mute. I'm going to stop sharing so I can see your chats if you are putting something in there. What are boundaries that you all have set? Scheduling a 1 hour lunch. Yes. Perfect, Jake. Love that. Saying no and not feeling guilty when possible. Good. Yeah. No is one of the things I've heard in the past is saying no to one thing is saying yes to something else. Because if you say no to something that doesn't fit your priorities or doesn't fit your time frame, doesn't fit your mental health needs, you're saying yes to something that does. So I love that. Angela, working part-time, I go to church with my child and his school every Thursday. I will not give up that time. Beautiful. Love that. Lindsay, I put extra hours into work in the early morning, not in the evening. Yes. That's beautiful. That's beautiful flexibility, beautiful boundaries. Carla, taking a breath before responding to something. That's an immediate ask. Yeah, that's a good boundary. Let's just take a breath, right? Carrie, I try to wait to respond to work chats or messages until after my kids leave for school. Beautiful. Yeah. All great boundaries, you guys. All great boundaries. So keep thinking about that. Keep thinking about what that looks for you. Towards the end of our presentation, we're gonna kind of come back to any action steps that might work well for you. And here's all like the traditional trend. All right, let's go on to intentionality. So intentionality is when we are aligning our work with our personal values and our priorities. So in an ideal world, and I know that this isn't always perfect and it isn't always possible, but in an ideal world, our work really aligns with our beliefs, what we believe in, right? So let's do this as an example. Let's say that I don't believe in microwaves, and I don't. I like microwaves. I'm not saying anything about microwaves, but let's say I don't believe in microwaves, and I decide to become a microwave salesperson. All right, that's not going to work out so well, right? Because that's not aligning my work with my personal values. How am I going to sell microwaves if I don't believe in them? So being intentional about the things that you believe in. And again, when we talk about work-life integration, what do you believe in? Do you believe that you should get to stop and eat a lunch? Do you believe that you should get to take a walk in the middle of the afternoon and step away from your work for a while on a beautiful day? Do you believe that you should respond to emails at 9 o'clock at night? Start to think about what you believe, and does that align with the work that you're doing? And if it isn't, what are the adjustments that can be made in that way? Because when we're in alignment with who we truly are, in our hearts and our souls, it's going to feel more natural, and you're going to have more of that beautiful flow of integration that we're really going for. And self-management. So all of us might need a little bit of tools or assistance or routines or something that can kind of help us with all of this, because there is a lot going on. There are a lot of technologies that can assist us in these areas. There's also people around us that probably want to support us. So thinking about, what are the things that you can manage that will help you sustain all of those things? So I know, for example, I have a couple of coworkers that have gotten into the meal delivery system. So that is like one less thing for them to worry about. If they get these meals delivered, it's a healthy option for them. They don't have to plan, they don't have to cook. It's something easy. It's a tool. It's a tool that they use so that they have time for something else. So thinking about that, what are the tools? And again, I'll just kind of open it up to you all. What are the tools that you're using? What are things that help you? What are routines that help you kind of sustain the work of life and work together? Can you think of any tools? Timers on the phone, that's a good one. For both things, right? Work and personal. Meal planning app, awesome. Love that. Timers, Linda Maxwell, thank you. That's good. That's good. All right. We'll keep thinking about that. We're gonna keep going here. So practical strategies that all of us as employees can use. And here's some ideas. And I wanted to get your ideas first, but here's some things that we can expand on a little bit. So calendar alignment. You can block focus time, your personal commitments. You can schedule in recovery time. So let's say you've had a couple of days of like back to back meetings, and you just need a break from more information coming at you. You can schedule that in to your time. And what does that look like for you? Or maybe you put some blocks of time at the end of the day so that people aren't able to schedule meetings with you just to have some recovery time. It's okay to do that. One of my coworkers gave me the great suggestion of blocking off some time when I came back from a conference so that I would have time to actually go through that material and absorb that. And what a gift that was, that I did that for myself, and I was able to dive deeper into some of those topics and be able to bring more great information to all of you. So don't be afraid to do that. Micro breaks and transitions to reduce stress. So our brains get into these cycles of fight or flight. And when we are really overwhelmed with stresses of anything, whether it be work or life, your brain kind of starts to freak out. And what you can do is you can basically set the reset button, press the reset button. And something like a micro break can do that. So that can be a couple minutes of breathing. That can be a tiny little walk. That can be going outside, grabbing some water, just little things to kind of break up that stress. Also consider your transitions. Consider your transitions between your work and your personal life. And what does that look like? So again, do I need to block off some time at the end of the day so that I can just wrap up a few things before I'm with my family? So I'm not bringing all that stress to them. Also thinking about those rituals. How do you start your day? How do you end your day? Is that setting you up for ultimate fluidity? What does that look like for you? Using that technology mindfully. Now, some of you talked about this. This is great. Setting timers, notifications, making some rules around meetings. Let's say you're on this hour meeting and it goes over and you have something going on, or maybe you are just starting to check out because the content has become too much for you. Make some rules. Can we revisit this? Can we can we set another meeting at a time that works for everybody? Start to think about how you can contain some of that, because I think when we set more of those boundaries, we create some healthiness for everyone. And then leveraging whatever you have for workplace resources. So most organizations have EAPs. Some people have access to coaching. There's well-being apps that can help you with all of these things as well. So just some ideas. Thinking about leaders and teams. So one of the greatest influences in our environments in the workplace is, what is our leader doing? And whether we like that or not, that is the truth. So when we talk about implementing well-being strategies into organizations, we really need those leaders doing this, because whatever our leader does is what we think is okay for us to do, right? So modeling those healthy behaviors, encouraging the outcome-based work and not worrying about how they get there, right? Because everybody does some things differently. So not putting parameters on, you have to spend 5 hours on this project, just get the project done, whatever that looks like. And for some people, that may be working early in the morning, it may be working later in the day. Setting up some norms for communication and after hour expectations. So really having the conversation of, is it okay if we text at this time of day? When does it work for everyone? Under what circumstances? Is it okay to communicate with you outside of work hours? Just having these open conversations to just make everybody feel okay about it. And then a really big one, just creating psychological safety so that employees can ask for that flexibility. So really honoring that people are human beings. They do have limitations. They do have families. They do get ill. They do experience death, all the things that happen to us in our lives. So creating the safety of, hey, it's okay. It's okay if you need an afternoon off for a funeral. It's okay if your child is sick today and so you need to work remotely. All of those types of things. So really focusing on creating psychological safety in those ways. So I want to bring a little case study for you, and let's talk about what you would recommend for this person. So I'm going to read you a little snippet here, and what would you recommend? So this is Jordan and her cat. You can go ahead and think of a name for the cat if you'd like. Jordan loves her job, but has felt like work has quietly taken over. Mornings start with emails on the phone. She usually skips lunch, and then evenings are blended in that long stretch of, oh gosh, I just want one more thing. Jordan is successful. She is climbing the corporate ladder. But more recently, she has realized that her sleep is very disrupted. She checked her blood pressure not so long ago, and it is elevated. And often her friends and family will say to her, wow, Jordan, we haven't seen you in a very long time. So with that scenario in mind, what would you say as a friend to Jordan? What would be some possible integrations that Jordan may want to start with? Bearing in mind, Rome wasn't built in a day, but what might be some small steps for Jordan?
I was just going to say that she schedules time, um, for her family where she actually blocks that in like a meeting or, um, so that it's intentional.
All right. Well, I'm sorry, Maria, I didn't hear you, but I'm hoping the rest of the gang did. And I'm just going to read a couple of things in the chat here. So Lindsay says, time to set hard boundaries. Take 30 minutes of lunch. If you can't take 60, go for a walk. No emails after 6. Love that. Jake says, prioritizing asks and putting in just enough effort into lower value work. Absolutely. Sometimes we just go over the top on things. Meet with PCP, health coach or lifestyle medicine to talk about how to reduce blood pressure. Yes, love that. Just a great reminder, we have a beautiful service line called Lifestyle Medicine where they really work with you on those health and wellness behaviors and really walk with you as you, make little changes to improve your health and well-being. So great resource that we have. And Maria said to set intentional time with family and friends. Yes, that social well-being is really important too. And connection is so incredibly important to us as human beings. So those are all great suggestions. All right, I am going to play one more little video for you just to I thought this was really a beautiful example of work-life integration. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Dr. Lynn Wagner. She's a functional medicine physician, actually in the De Pere area. She has a private practice. I love following her stuff online. She's very much about nutrition and movement and all of those things along with doing functional medicine. But she posted this little video recently on just a small thing that she was doing that I think is a really beautiful example of work-life integration and how it affected her world. So I'm just going to play that video for you, and then we will wrap up.
Ago, we downsized our house and we moved a little less than a half mile from Wagner Integrative Health, my office. So for the first time in my life, I have been walking to work every single day, rain or shine, snow, wind, rain. And one of the coolest things in my life, I would say, you'd think it's a small thing, but just that 20 to 30 minutes of walking time every day, as long as I stay off my phone, of course, gives me just clarity and peace in my mind. And it kind of calms me down before I get home after a busy day. Also, what I've noticed is I get ideas. So whether I'm seeing patients or doing office work, I'm getting all this input all day at work. And on the way home, it's kind of condensing into different ideas, different things I want to share with people, different ways I want to help my patients. And so what I've decided to do is when the ideas hit or inspiration strikes, and it's something I think is worth sharing, I'm going to do a short video. And because when I'm walking, I'm normally in the alley, I'm going to call it Alley Enlightenment. So I hope you enjoy. This was the first episode of Alley Enlightenment. And the takeaway message is, if you can get 10 to 20 minutes in your day where you are just walking around by yourself, not on your phone, not listening to music, just taking in the sights, the birds, the trees, the wind, it might change your life.
I love that. I just thought that was such a beautiful thing, something so simple, but yet something that really had changed things for her. So just wanted to share that with all of you. Again, I just really I like her stuff. I think she's got some good things out there. All right, so let's wrap up. So I want you all, I know we're at time, but if you all wanted to stay on a minute or two extra, 2 things that are causing you right now. What are the 2 big things? And I want you to go a little bit deeper. I don't just want you to say, my husband and my job. Okay. I want you to think more specifically, what is it about the husband and the job that causes you stress, or whatever those things may be? So perhaps, like maybe with your job, what's really causing you stress is you have back-to-back meetings. And so then maybe a small integrated change would be, I am going to intentionally block off 2 hours a week. that are just my time to catch up or to brainstorm or whatever it is that I need. If it is a spouse that's causing you stress, what is it that's causing stress about that spouse? Maybe he leaves his shoes by the door. I am going to ask my spouse about buying a shoe rack so that his shoes will not be by the door, whatever it happens to be. But think of that. You can feel free to unmute yourself and share, or share it in the chat. I would love to hear your thoughts. So just some wrap ups as you're doing that. Identify those areas of friction. Try to think of an integrative tactic that's gonna help you, and then reevaluate it in 1 to 2 weeks. So make a little note on your calendar, put it on a post-it note. Don't let this get lost. Really think about, here's the thing that I'm going to work on, and keep that in front of you in whatever way you can, and just make those tiny steps forward. That's what's really going to help us. So just a reminder, we do have a couple podcasts that go along with this topic. So we have our discussion with our 2 fantastic therapists in Mental Health Moments, where we're talking about life work integration and what that can look like, and the mental health perspective of that. And then for our prescription for life on this topic, our lifestyle saver story is Ashley Jones. She is a rock star mom and worker and doing things in the community. And how does she do all of that? You can learn more if you look up that podcast. So thinking about them, what is the one action step you're going to take after today's presentation? What is one actual small little thing that you can do to try to get that flow of life and work working together? And I love this quote from Oprah. I think she says it beautifully. You can have it all. You just can't have it all at once. So sometimes we have to focus on work, and sometimes we have to focus on life. But we can have it all. We just have to figure out how to get those two to work together. So of course, I'm always here. You can reach out with any questions or thoughts. That's a QR code to my LinkedIn, my email. And I'm just so glad all of you were with me today and took some time to really think about what this looks like for you. And I love some of the things in the chat. Love that, Linda Maxwell. 10 minutes at the end of the day. Very doable. Very doable. Jake, what do you want to share? Hand up.
So I'm actually in a pretty good place, stress related right now, but I had several years of very intense stress. It was due to a workplace. It was a very toxic environment that I was in. And the first step was realizing that culture was not going to change. And I needed to extract myself from it. So it was a very hard decision. I actually loved the work. I just, it became unlivable, unfortunately. So sometimes, it's just stepping away from an unhealthy situation ends up being the best option. I learned that. And then I actually had some health conditions sort of pop up because of how intense the stress was at that job. And it took me a couple of years to kind of find a good care pathway and get the treatment that I needed and take care of things like learning that there is stuff that you can control, like diet and fitness for me was something I could control. And it gave me a sense of stability. So I think I guess to sum it up, walk away when there's nothing more that you can do, and then find those areas where you can have some control, and then, get comfort and stability from that. So.
Yeah, love that. Sharing that, Jake. That's just a great reminder. Sometimes the answer is we got to change something really significant, especially if it's taking a toll on our health, mental, physical, all of those things. So thank you for that reminder. That's awesome. All right. Anybody else want to share anything? I see you all are thinking about the little actions you're going to take. So I'm super excited that you all are going to do that. Join me again next time and we'll follow up, and I'll ask you if you did the thing that you said you were going to do. Coming up in the next week or two, the next campaign will be kicking off. Another one that I'm super excited about. It's called Escape from Reality. Coping when life gets hard, coping when life overwhelms and gets hard. So super excited to see what that looks like. Lots of great content coming your way. That should be in your inboxes. If you're on our Lifesaver list, that'll be in your inbox the next week or two. If you're not on our Lifesaver list, feel free to go to bellin.org/lifesaver, sign up, and we will start sending that stuff immediately. So thanks again for joining me, and just enjoy the rest of the day. Take care, everyone.